Have you ever looked out a window during a storm? Not rushing to close it, not trying to shut it out, but just watching? Watching the rain slam against the glass, the trees bending with the wind, the sky split open with lightning, and in that chaos, felt something. Still, not because the storm isn't real, but because you're not trying to fight it. Just watching, aware, steady. That's what this is about. There's a quiet kind of power in not reacting. Not because you're indifferent or numb, but because you've learned that not everything deserves your energy. Most things, in fact, don't. You might be carrying 1,000 things today. A decision that won't make itself. A conversation you've been dreading. A disappointment you didn't see coming. Maybe it's anger that won't let go, or fear that keeps whispering in the back of your mind. Maybe the world just feels too loud right now, too fast. And in the middle of all that, you're wondering how to stay grounded. How to find clarity when everything feels out of your hands. Start here with what is in your hands. There are very few things you can actually control in this life. Your opinions, your choices, how you respond. That's it. Everything else, what other people do, what happens tomorrow, the past, the weather, your reputation, even your body to a large extent. None of it is up to you. That truth might feel uncomfortable at first, but sit with it. Let it sink in, because it's not a limitation. It's a freedom. You don't have to carry what isn't yours. The next time someone speaks harshly to you, remember, their words don't belong to you unless you accept them. You can hear them without becoming them. You can observe the sting without feeding it. You can let it pass through you like wind through an open field. Notice it, feel it, and let it go. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've learned not to be held hostage by things you can't control. It means you've chosen to own your mind, your peace, your path. Life is going to test you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. That's the rhythm of things. You can fight it, get swept up in frustration, demand the world be different, or you can meet life as it is with calm eyes and steady hands. Think about the last time you were overwhelmed. What was it that truly shook you? Was it the event itself, or your thoughts about it? You missed the opportunity. The relationship ended. You got the bad news. But what made it unbearable wasn't just what happened. It was the story you told yourself about what it meant. This shouldn't be happening. This is unfair. This ruins everything. But here's something powerful. Events are neutral. The meaning comes from you. Always from you. You can choose to see a setback as a door closing, or as a chance to build your own door. You can treat criticism as an attack or as a mirror. You can see a delay as wasted time, or as unexpected space to prepare. The event doesn't change. You do. That's the practice. Moment by moment, watching your mind, returning to what matters. And yes, it is a practice, not a one-time insight. You're going to forget. You'll slip into old habits. You'll get pulled into the noise. That's okay. What matters is that you return. Over and over. The work is in the return. You wake up in the morning already worrying. That tightness in your chest, that spiral of thoughts. Before you even get out of bed, the world feels heavy. Stop. Breathe. Ask yourself, what's mine to carry today? Not in some poetic way, but literally. What is mine to carry? Not what might happen. Not what someone else might think. Just what I can do now. And maybe what you can do is get up and make the bed. Maybe it's answering that email. Maybe it's choosing not to react to someone else's chaos. That's it. That's enough. Later, something will go wrong. You'll feel it rising, the urge to snap, to complain, to tighten your grip. That's your cue. That's the moment to pause. To recognize that your power isn't in what's happening, but in how you meet it. You'll feel grief too. Real grief. Not everything can be shrugged off. Not everything can be reframed. Some losses are just losses. Don't run from those. Sit with them. Let the sadness move through you, but don't let it become you. Don't build your home there. Just visit. Feel it. And when it's ready to pass, let it. Strength isn't the absence of emotion. It's being able to feel fully without being ruled by it. Now, there will also be moments of joy. Unexpected laughter, a quiet evening, someone looking at you with love. Don't miss those. Don't be too busy chasing what's next that you forget to live what's now. Stoicism isn't cold. It's not detachment for its own sake. It's presence, awareness, gratitude without dependence. The moment is enough when you learn to see it. You'll be tempted to compare. They have more. They're doing better. They're younger, stronger, further ahead. Stop. Their path isn't yours. Their timeline isn't yours. You don't need more time. You need fewer distractions. You don't need more approval. You need more honesty with yourself. What do you actually want? Not what you're supposed to want. Not what gets the most applause. What do you want when the world is quiet? When no one's watching? Hold that. It's easy to be wise in theory, but real wisdom shows up in the small things. When you're stuck in traffic and choose not to rage. When someone misunderstands you and you don't need to prove your point. When life doesn't go according to plan and you nod, smile, and adjust. That's the work. And don't wait for motivation. That's fleeting. Do the thing anyway. Show up anyway. Discipline is love. Routine is freedom. Start your day with intention. End it with reflection. Look back not with judgment, but with curiosity. Where was I asleep today? Where did I wake up? Keep a journal. Not because it's trendy, but because it makes you pay attention. And when you fall short and you will, don't spiral. Don't scold yourself. Just return. Quietly, kindly, like a traveler coming home. The world will keep spinning. People will keep rushing. But you can be still. Not passive. Still. Anchored. Watching the storm through the window. Because storms will come. That's life. You can't stop the rain. But you can learn to breathe in the middle of it. And in that stillness, you'll find what you were chasing all along. Not control, not certainty, but peace. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And when you start to understand that peace is not something you find, it's something you practice, you begin to see life differently. You stop waiting for circumstances to align perfectly. You stop chasing the fantasy that everything will finally calm down when you finish the project, get the job, find the person, fix the thing. Because even when you reach that milestone, something else will arise. Always. That's the nature of life. It flows, changes, tests. The goal is not to outpace difficulty, but to meet it wisely. There's an old idea worth remembering. You become what you practice. If you practice complaint, you become bitter. If you practice blame, you become resentful. If you practice gratitude, patience, courage, those qualities become your nature. So when the day feels heavy, carry it with grace. Not for the world's sake, but for your own. Because every moment, no matter how mundane or chaotic, is an opportunity to return to the path. A chance to say, here I am, still breathing, still choosing, still walking forward. Even when the path isn't clear, especially when it isn't. There's wisdom in uncertainty if you stop trying to force clarity before it's ready. Some answers come only after the silence. Some paths reveal themselves only after the fog. You don't need to rush to understand everything. You only need to stay awake, stay honest, and stay open. When someone frustrates you, ask, not why they did it, but why you're letting it linger. Anger is like holding a hot coal with the intention of throwing it. You're the one getting burned. Let it go. And if you can't let it go yet, at least stop feeding it. Don't rehearse the argument in your mind. Don't rewrite the past. It's already done. You can choose now whether to be dragged by it or to release yourself. The same goes for regret. You made the choice. You said the thing. You were wrong. Or you were just human. Either way, it's part of the story now. Learn from it. Let it shape you, not define you. You are not frozen in time. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to start again, today, this hour, this moment. The only real failure is refusing to try again. And understand this too. Not everything that feels good is good for you. Ease isn't always a gift. Comfort can lull you into forgetting who you want to become. Seek what strengthens you, not what soothes you. Seek the kind of life that leaves you proud, not just satisfied. That might mean doing the harder thing. Saying no, saying yes, speaking up, staying silent, walking away, staying put. Only you know what that looks like. But when you face those decisions, remember, choose the kind of discipline that liberates you. Choose the kind of discomfort that refines you, because ease never built anything worthwhile. Times you'll feel lonely, not because you're unloved, but because the path you're walking requires solitude, reflection, integrity. Sometimes you'll be misunderstood. That's part of it too. If you live by your values, not everyone will clap. That's fine. Approval isn't the compass. Conscience is. Walk quietly. Do your work. Let your character speak louder than your words. And when the world tries to drag you into noise, arguments, opinions, distractions, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine? Does this need my attention? Or am I borrowing a burden that isn't meant for me? Clarity often comes when you step back. Not out of fear, but out of understanding. You don't have to attend every battle you're invited to. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. The work is its own reward. The calm is its own power. You know you're on the right path when peace starts to feel more important than recognition. And yes, life will sometimes feel unfair. People less honest might get ahead. People more cruel might win praise. That's not yours to fix. Stay aligned. Keep your soul intact. The world doesn't need more outrage. It needs more steadiness. More people who can stand in the storm and still be kind. Still be clear. Still be grounded. And when doubt visits, and it will, don't see it as a weakness. See it as a check-in. A moment to ask, am I living from fear or from principle? Am I hiding or am I evolving? Even in stillness, there's motion. Even in silence, there's growth. Sometimes the bravest thing is simply to stay the course when nothing around you is encouraging it. Sometimes resilience is just breathing deeply and doing the next small thing. Not the grand gesture, not the dramatic change, just the quiet discipline of staying faithful to what you said you'd do. Over time, that becomes a life, a worthy one. Let go of the illusion that things have to be perfect to begin. Begin now. Begin messy. Begin uncertain. That's how all real beginnings start. You don't need permission to align yourself with what matters. Just a willingness to show up again and again. And in the middle of that process, forgive yourself. Not as a way to avoid responsibility, but as a way to keep moving. Shame adds no value. It only weighs you down. Take responsibility. Make amends. Then let it go. Carry only what helps you grow. And remember, not all progress is visible. Sometimes it's a shift inside, calmer response, quieter mind, a faster recovery from anger, a deeper breath before you speak. That counts. That's growth. Celebrate that. You're not here to impress anyone. You're here to live deeply, truthfully, with integrity. That means your choices won't always be easy, but they'll be yours. That's what Stoicism teaches, not through theory, but through living. By rising early not to conquer the world, but to greet the day with intention. By working not for glory, but for mastery. By speaking less and listening more. By showing up for others not to save them, but to serve them. And when the sun sets, you ask, not what did the world give me, but how did I live today? Was I honest? Was I kind? Did I live in alignment with my values? That's enough. No medals. No spotlight, just a quiet nod to yourself. You did what you could. You stayed true. And tomorrow you'll begin again. That's the path. When you stop rushing to escape discomfort, you begin to see that discomfort itself holds a kind of wisdom. You feel frustration not because the world is broken, but because you expected it not to be. You feel anxious, not because the future is uncertain, but because you believed certainty was ever possible. What if you could meet those feelings, not with resistance, but with observation? This is the turning point, when you stop clenching your fists at reality and begin to see it for what it is. Unpredictable, imperfect, unfinished, just like you. And that's not a flaw. That's the shared experience of being human. There is freedom in letting go of the illusion of control. Not in apathy, but in acceptance. Not in passivity, but in clarity. You stop wasting energy trying to rewrite the external world, and you begin investing that same energy inward on your habits, your reactions, your principles. You become the calm center in a spinning wheel. Notice how much of your day is spent reacting: emails, messages, news, other people's moods. But reaction is not direction. Noise is not purpose. Every time you rush to respond, to defend, to explain, you abandon your own ground. Stillness isn't inactivity. It's the foundation from which wise action emerges. Start there. Begin your day not by grabbing your phone, but by grabbing your presence. Before you offer yourself to the world, offer yourself a moment of reflection. Ask quietly, what kind of person do I want to be today, regardless of what happens? Let that guide you, because the world may never reflect back exactly what you want. People may misunderstand your silence, your firmness, your restraint. But you're not here to manage perceptions. You're here to live rightly. You don't need loudness to live powerfully. Think of a tree, grounded, quiet, and yet enduring storms, seasons, time. Its power comes from what's beneath the surface, roots that no one sees. Cultivate those roots. Values, discipline, clarity. Don't chase the wind. Grow beneath it. And remember, comparison is a thief. Creeps in quietly. You see someone else's path and begin to doubt your own. But their path is not yours. Their timeline, their battles, their progress, it has nothing to do with your journey. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where your lessons are. Stay there. Learn them. You will gain more by mastering your current moment than by fantasizing about another. And yes, there will be pain. That is not failure. That is not punishment. That is the cost of staying awake. To love, to try, to care deeply, all of this invites pain. And it's worth it, because a numb life is not a peaceful one. It's just quiet suffering. Real peace comes not from avoiding pain, but from knowing you'll survive it. Not just survive, but grow. Not just grow, but transform. Through each wound, each failure, each letting go, you are shaped into something steadier. When you lose something you thought you needed, a relationship, a role, a certainty, it is tempting to collapse inward. But this is when you call forth your deeper strength. Not with bravado, but with calm. You breathe, you let it ache, and you do the next right thing. That's courage. Not charging into battle, but walking forward while your heart still mends. Life doesn't require you to feel strong before acting. It only asks that you act in alignment. Integrity is not a mood, it's a practice. Speak the truth when it's easier to stay silent. Keep your word when it would be convenient to abandon it. Show up when it would be simpler to disappear. In time, your actions become your nature. There is no need to brand yourself as a good person. Just do good. No need to declare your discipline. Just live it. Let your life be the quiet echo of your principles. Because talk is fleeting. Character remains. And when others disappoint you, as they will, don't rush to judgment. They too are walking their own unseen battle. Extend understanding, not to excuse, but to stay light. Carrying resentment only slows your own path. You can forgive and still walk away. You can care and still say no. You can lead with kindness without surrendering your boundaries. Strength and softness are not opposites. They are companions. When you hold both, you no longer swing between extremes. You walk the middle path, steady, measured, clear. And that's what this practice teaches over and over. Not how to dominate the world, but how to master the self. Not how to escape reality, but how to live wisely within it. To notice your thoughts, but not be ruled by them. To feel emotions, but not obey them blindly. To live deliberately, rather than by default. No one sees this work, but it is the most important you will ever do. It's in the choice to pause before reacting. In the courage to apologize when you're wrong. In the decision to stay true to your values when it costs you comfort. These are the victories that matter. Quiet victories, private ones. You don't need a crowd to witness them. Just your own honesty. And yes, you will slip. You will forget. You will fall into old patterns. That is not the end. That is part of the practice. What matters most is not how many times you fall, but how sincerely you return. Return again, each time with a little more awareness, a little more humility, a little more strength. That's the rhythm of a life well lived. Not a straight line, but a spiral upward. And in the end, when you look back, not at your possessions or your praise, but at your soul, you'll want to be able to say, I lived with courage. I lived with discipline. I lived with peace. No one can take that from you. So return to the practice. Begin again. The wind doesn't ask for permission before it changes direction. Neither do the seasons wait until you're ready. Life unfolds on its own terms, not yours. And this is where the strength of your inner posture matters most. Not when everything is aligned, but when nothing is. Disappointment often begins where expectation is too rigid. You picture how things should go. You imagine how someone should respond. You design a path in your mind, and anything that diverges feels like a failure. But the failure is not in the event. The failure is in clinging to an image of how the world must be in order for you to be okay. There is no freedom in needing the world to cooperate with your hopes. Real freedom is adapting without bitterness, moving forward without dragging resentment behind you, surrendering the illusion of control not in defeat but in wisdom. Try this the next time you're let down. Don't rush to fix it. Don't rush to fix yourself. Just sit quietly and observe what's present. The sting, the sadness, the disbelief. Let them rise, then let them pass. Don't resist. Don't react. Witness. That space between stimulus and response. That's where your strength lives. We often overestimate the importance of what happens to us and underestimate the power of how we meet it. Two people can face the same setback. One crumbles, the other becomes stronger. The difference isn't the event. The difference is the lens through which they see it. Train your lens. Don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this showing me? Let every difficulty become a mirror, every obstacle a lesson, every interruption a question. Who am I in this moment? That question will follow you for a lifetime. In traffic, in conflict, in silence, in loss. And every time you answer with steadiness, you deepen the roots of your being. Remember, you are not your job. You are not your name. You are not the roles others assign to you. You are the choices you make when no one is watching. You are the standards you hold yourself to even when it's inconvenient. You are the quiet courage to live by truth, even when no reward is offered. Let others chase applause. You chase alignment. Let others seek status. You seek integrity, not because you're better, but because you understand. No amount of praise can replace the peace of a clean conscience. There will be days when your mind feels noisy, when worries hum like a swarm, stinging your attention. This is not a failure. This is the moment to practice. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Anchor yourself in the present. This breath, this body, this choice. Nothing else is guaranteed. Not tomorrow, not approval, not comfort. All of it can vanish. And that's not a threat. That's a reminder of what's real. When you grasp this fully, not as an idea but as a lived experience, your priorities begin to shift. You stop waiting for the right time. You stop needing more before you begin. You start living with urgency, not panic. Because time is not a resource you manage. It's a gift you honor. Do you honor your time? Not by filling every second with busyness, but by showing up fully in what matters. By having the hard conversation. By saying what needs to be said. By doing what's uncomfortable but right. Most people postpone their lives waiting for permission, waiting for clarity, waiting for someone to say, now is the time. But the Stoic knows now is the only time, and virtue does not wait. Act with justice even when no one returns the favor. Act with courage, even when fear whispers louder. Act with moderation even when indulgence is easier. And above all, act with wisdom, not because it guarantees success, but because it aligns you with your highest nature. You will not control the outcomes. You may lose what you love. You may face betrayal, illness, death. But no one, not fate, not chance, not time, can take from you the dignity with which you respond. That's your province, your domain. Guard it. Speak less of what you know. Show it. Speak less of what you believe. Live it. Let your life be a quiet demonstration of your principles. Others may never understand. Let them. Others may mock or misread your silence. Let them. The Stoic does not require agreement, only the courage to stand alone if necessary. You will notice this too. The more you align with your principles, the less you need from the world. You no longer seek constant reassurance. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You become sufficient, not in arrogance, but in clarity. You do not isolate yourself, but you stop outsourcing your peace, your identity, your direction. And strangely, this inner detachment allows for deeper connection. You love without grasping. You help without controlling. You show up without expecting to be filled, because you're already full of presence, full of awareness, full of resolve. This is where your true strength lies, not in muscle, not in intellect, but in this unwavering clarity. I may lose everything, but I will not lose myself. And when the storms come, as they will, you don't panic. You don't flee. You stand quietly and ask, "What now?" You tend to the broken pieces. You carry the weight. You walk forward not with ease, but with dignity. The world may never reward you for this. That's not the point. The point is to become someone you respect, not just in moments of triumph, but in the quiet hours, in the unseen choices, in the way you respond to the smallest interruption. In that moment, ask yourself, what would a wise person do here? Then do it, even if no one sees, especially if no one sees. That is the work. That is the path. You won't find peace by rearranging the world to suit your preferences. You'll find it by removing the need for the world to do so. This is perhaps one of the most difficult truths to accept, and yet one of the most freeing. When you no longer demand that life bend to your expectations, you open the door to real calm. Not the fragile calm that exists only when all is quiet, but the resilient calm that persists even when everything is loud. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort. They dodge difficult conversations. They run from uncertainty. They numb themselves with distractions. But the Stoic knows, comfort is not the goal. Character is. It is not enough to survive life. You must meet it well, with grace, with discipline, with humility. Consider the way you start your day. Is your mind immediately hijacked by what's missing, what might go wrong, or who might disappoint you? Or do you begin with gratitude for the chance to try again, to live with purpose, to sharpen your soul against the rough edges of life? Even something as simple as getting out of bed can become a practice. Are you sluggish, resisting the pull of the day? Or do you rise with quiet determination, knowing that the world does not owe you ease, and that your duty is not to your mood but to your values? The body may ache, the sky may be gray, but you rise, not because it feels good but because it is right. Many chase motivation. The Stoic practices discipline, because discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what is the right thing to do now, and then it does it. This is how strength is built, not through occasional bursts of effort, but through consistent alignment with your principles. One choice at a time. Each moment is a chance to practice. Practice patience when the queue is long. Practice honesty when a lie would be more convenient. Practice calm when anger flares up. Practice listening when you want to speak. Practice presence when your mind wants to escape. You don't need a temple or a retreat. Life itself is the training ground. Even suffering can become sacred if you approach it with the right attitude. Not by romanticizing pain, but by recognizing what it offers. A confrontation with your assumptions, an invitation to maturity, a mirror for your inner world. Pain strips away illusions, clarifies, it humbles, and in that space something noble can take root. The Stoic does not deny emotion. They simply refuse to be ruled by it. It's okay to feel sadness, fear, frustration. These are part of the human experience. But don't let them steer the ship. Let them pass through you like weather across a mountain, noticed, felt, but not obeyed. You are not your passing moods. You are the mountain. In relationships, Stoicism teaches you to love freely, but not desperately. You care deeply, but you do not cling. You give without keeping score. You listen without needing to be heard. And when someone leaves or changes or fails you, you grieve, but you don't collapse. Because you never claimed ownership of what was never yours to keep. People are not possessions. Love them as they are. Appreciate them while they're here. But do not place your stability in hands that do not belong to you. What about criticism? Praise? Rejection? Let others speak. Let them praise or condemn. Let them misunderstand. That is their right. Your task is to remain anchored, to know who you are and who you are not, regardless of what others say. Seek not to be liked, but to be good. There is a quiet strength in self-respect, in doing what aligns with your soul, even when no one claps. Especially then, beware of needing too much. The more you need to be seen, applauded, reassured, the more power you give away. But when you reduce your needs to what is essential: truth, courage, kindness, clarity, you become harder to shake, harder to tempt, harder to buy, harder to break. This is not coldness. This is stability. When adversity comes, and it will, be slow to speak. Don't curse the wind. Don't flail against what you cannot change. Stand still. Look inward. Ask, asterisk, what part of this is mine to carry? What part is not? Asterisk, let go of what is not. The Stoic learns to distinguish what is up to them and what is not. This is the key. This is the doorway to peace. You cannot control the storm, but you can adjust your sail. You cannot control others, but you can govern your reactions. You cannot change the past, but you can meet this moment well. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to ask better questions. Like, am I acting out of fear or principle? Is this necessary? Or am I doing it to be seen? Asterisk, will this matter tomorrow? A year from now? At the end of my life? Asterisk, let your life be shaped by questions that elevate you, not shrink you. And be wary of your own mind. It will deceive you. It will exaggerate threats, inflate slights, invent stories. You must learn to observe your thoughts without blindly trusting them. A thought is not a truth. A feeling is not a command. Let them arise. Let them pass. Hold only what serves. You are not a puppet to your impulses. You are a steward of your character. Make time for silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but of reflection. Step back from the noise, the headlines, the feeds, the endless commentary. There is power in withdrawal, not as escape, but as recalibration. Recalibrate often. Examine yourself. Not to shame, but to sharpen. Not to punish, but to prepare. Ask, asterisk, where did I act from ego today? Where did I honor my values? What can I do better tomorrow? Asterisk, the Stoic life is not about perfection. It is about progress. Each day, a little less driven by fear, a little more guided by wisdom. Each day, a little less reactive, a little more reflective. Each day, a little less concerned with outcome, a little more focused on right action. This is how you build a life of meaning, not all at once, but moment by moment, choice by choice. Stay steady, stay awake. Let your days be simple. Let your word be enough. Let your presence speak louder than your promises. When it's all said and done, let your soul say, I was here and I lived with honor. Do not chase the feeling of control. Chase clarity. Most of the anxiety we carry is born from the illusion that we can or must control everything. The future, the outcome, the reactions of others. But clarity does not come from controlling more. It comes from needing less to feel secure. The Stoic looks not outward, trying to manipulate events, but inward, seeking stability of mind. You can hold a calm mind in the midst of chaos if you stop believing that calm must come from your surroundings. A noisy world cannot disturb a still soul unless the soul invites the noise in. So train yourself to pause before reacting. That pause is your freedom. It's the space where wisdom enters. Most people don't pause. They feel something and immediately act. But you must become different. You must become deliberate. You must become someone who does not hand over their peace so easily. Be mindful of the stories you tell yourself. You were cut off in traffic. Do you assume malice or mistake? A friend is distant. Do you invent betrayal or consider that they're lost in their own storm? Your peace depends on the interpretation, not the event. Stoicism teaches you to live in reality as it is, not as your emotions paint it. It doesn't ask you to deny what's happening. It asks you to meet it with discernment, to choose the response that serves your integrity, not your ego. And yes, ego is a shadow you must constantly observe. It's the voice that demands to be right, to be noticed, to be above discomfort. It's the impulse to defend your image at the cost of your growth. But what good is a polished exterior if your foundation is cracked? Let your ego be dissolved by truth. The truth that you are not always right, that you still have much to learn, that your importance is not self-evident, and must be proven each day by your actions, not your self-image. Humility, then, is not weakness. It is strength tempered by truth. The Stoic wears humility like armor. Quiet, unshakable, impenetrable to flattery and insult alike. Do not rely on constant stimulation to feel alive. Many today are addicted to noise, to novelty, to being busy. But that isn't vitality, it's restlessness. Learn to sit with yourself in stillness. Learn to enjoy your own company. If you are always fleeing silence, you are fleeing yourself. And if you cannot stand your own mind in quiet, it is not the silence that needs fixing. It is the mind. The Stoic does not see time as something to kill, but something to honor. You will never get today again. How will you use it? What will you allow to steal it? Guard your attention as you would guard something sacred, because it is. Do not waste it arguing on things that don't matter, defending opinions that change nothing, or proving points that serve only pride. A wise person does not speak to be right. They speak to be useful, and sometimes they do not speak at all. Choose when to speak. Choose when to hold silence. Both are acts of power if used with care. Now consider adversity, true adversity. The betrayal, the illness, the loss, the uncertainty. These are not punishments. They are summons. They call something out of you that comfort never could. Ease rarely makes you better, but hardship refines. Do not wish for lighter burdens. Wish for stronger shoulders. Then work on those shoulders daily, not by lifting weight in a gym, but by carrying each difficulty with patience and resolve. There will be days you are misunderstood. Good. Practice self-respect. There will be times you fail. Good. Practice humility. There will be nights when sleep avoids you, and all your thoughts feel heavy. Good. Practice endurance. What you practice in hardship becomes your instinct in peace. Do not envy others' lives. Envy blinds you. You see only the surface, the curated version. But the Stoic sees deeper, sees the cost behind the image, sees the restlessness behind the smile, and remembers that no outward fortune is worth inner turmoil. Happiness is not having more. It is needing less, and not in a performative way. Not in the way that posts about minimalism while clinging to approval, but in the quiet kind of way that simply feels content in the present moment. Right here, without spectacle. This contentment, it doesn't come from acquiring. It comes from aligning. Aligning your life with what you value. Aligning your actions with your beliefs. Aligning your thoughts with what is true. And that's hard work. Harder than most people want to admit. Because it means facing your contradictions. It means admitting when you're not as noble as you claim to be. When you gossip. When you judge. When you choose the easy path. The Stoic doesn't deny these moments. They observe them, and they use them to grow. You are not judged by one moment, but by your direction. Keep turning toward what is just, toward what is honest, toward what is right. Let your days be measured by your efforts to embody virtue, not by how much you achieved or how many liked you or how easy it was. You will age. You will change. You will lose things. This is not cruelty. This is the natural shape of life. Resisting that change only creates suffering. Embracing it brings wisdom. Everything is borrowed. Your youth, your strength, even the people you love. You do not get to keep them forever. You only get the chance to cherish them now. So cherish deeply, but do not cling. Love with full presence, but do not build your identity on what must eventually pass. There is freedom in this. A fierce, liberating peace that comes when you stop gripping what cannot stay. You begin to see beauty in what is fleeting. You begin to live not just past time. And in that living, you become dangerous, not to others but to the illusions that kept you small. The illusion that you need approval. The illusion that you are your past. The illusion that peace will come when the world finally gives you what you want. No, peace is here when you realize you already have what you need. A mind capable of reason, a heart capable of virtue, a day full of choices. Use them well, not for applause, not for status, but because you are training yourself to be the kind of person who does what is right, simply because it is right. Not easy, never easy, but always worth it. And with time, it becomes natural, a quiet strength, a steady flame, not flashy, not loud, but unmistakably powerful. You become like a tree in the storm, not because storms don't come, but because you've sunk your roots deep into what matters. And the winds, they pass, but you remain, still, grounded, unshaken. This is the gift of Stoicism. Not a life without storms, but a soul that is prepared for them. There's a silence inside you that most people never touch. Not because it isn't there, but because they keep running from it. Distractions are loud. The world is loud. But the voice of wisdom, it whispers. You must quiet the world to hear it. Stoicism invites you into that silence, not as an escape, but as a return. A return to the place where clarity begins. This silence isn't empty. It's full of questions you've been avoiding. What are you chasing? What are you avoiding? What part of you is still waiting for the world to heal a wound it didn't cause? When you stop running, you meet yourself. That's where the work begins. Not in changing the world, but in changing how you meet it. The Stoics didn't believe in avoiding pain. They believed in understanding it. Pain has a message, not always a punishment, sometimes a prompt. To change, to let go, to face the truth. You can numb pain, or you can learn from it, but you can't do both. Suffering, for the Stoic, isn't what happens to you. It's the resistance to what is. It's the story layered on top of reality. A Stoic doesn't say, "This shouldn't be happening." A Stoic says, "It is happening. So what now? What is within my power?" And that shift from victim to agent is the doorway to strength. You will be criticized, sometimes fairly, sometimes not. The weak man obsesses over reputation. The strong man concerns himself with character. What you are will always matter more than what others think you are. Reputation fades, but virtue leaves a shadow that lasts. You can walk through this life like a feather in the wind, blown by praise, flattened by rejection. Or you can root yourself in principles. Ask, is this true? Ask, is this just? Ask, would I be proud of this choice if no one saw it? The Stoic doesn't live for applause. They live so that they can look at themselves in silence and feel at peace. And when peace isn't there, they do not distract themselves. They investigate. Where did I act out of fear? Where did I betray my values? Where did I choose the easy path instead of the right one? Self-inquiry is not punishment. It's responsibility. Because if your peace depends on others, it will always be fragile. Practice being okay with not being understood. Practice being okay with disappointing those who want you to abandon your values. Not to become hard or cold, but to become grounded. Empathy and boundaries are not enemies. A Stoic can be kind without being submissive. They can be open without being hollowed out by others' expectations. You are not obligated to carry every burden handed to you. Learn the difference between helping and self-abandonment. And even when you help, help with detachment. Help without needing thanks. Help without shaping your identity around being the good one. Do good and let go. So much of Stoicism is learning to release. Not only the outcomes, but the image you built of how life should be. It's letting go of the fantasy where things are always fair, where people always behave, where your effort guarantees success. You're not owed ease. You're not owed results. You are given this moment. You are given your will. You are given the capacity to respond with integrity. That's enough. There will be days when your progress feels invisible. You'll slip. you'll fall back into anger or fear or despair. Don't add shame to the stumble. Catch yourself. Forgive. Continue. You're not practicing Stoicism to become perfect. You're practicing to become consistent, to fall less deeply, and rise more quickly. This is how you build resilience, not by pretending to be invincible, but by learning that you can face hard things without being broken by them. Time passes. People change. You will be left behind. You will be misunderstood. You will be hurt by those you've loved well. And yet, this is not cause for bitterness. It is cause for depth. Pain can make you narrow, but it can also make you wide. Can make you guarded, but it can also make you wise. The Stoic accepts impermanence not with cynicism, but with reverence. What is brief becomes sacred. What can end becomes precious. And so they love fully, knowing love may fade. They give freely, knowing what they give may never return. They forgive quickly, because resentment is a burden on the soul. Do not wait for closure from others. Grant yourself peace. Do not wait for certainty before you move. Act with courage in the fog. Do not wait for motivation to do what matters. Discipline is more reliable. And remember, not all emotions are your enemy. Stoicism doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you feel deeply but are not led blindly. You don't suppress fear. You recognize it, question it, challenge it. You don't banish grief. You honor it without letting it define your identity. You don't reject joy. You embrace it without needing it to last forever. You become the vessel, not the storm. The storm comes. The storm goes. You remain. And while you remain, you practice. You keep showing up, even when it's dull. You keep acting with principle, even when no one's watching. You keep returning to what matters, even when everything else screams for attention. Because in the end, the Stoic life is not flashy. It's not about grand gestures. It's about small, daily victories over the chaos of impulse. The choice to be patient when irritation is easier. The choice to speak gently when you could dominate. The choice to listen when your ego wants to interrupt. These choices shape your soul. And the soul is what carries you when all else falls away. That is the real preparation. Not for success, not for status, but for the one certainty that life is uncertain. You train your mind not to predict, but to endure. Not to control, but to navigate. Not to be safe, but to be ready. And when the time comes, when the day tests you, you'll meet it with strength. Quiet, still, unmoved. A mind sharpened by hardship. A heart softened by truth. You will not flinch. You will not flee. You will simply be rooted in wisdom, steady in purpose, free in spirit. That is the Stoic life. There is a profound freedom that comes from recognizing the boundary between what you can change and what you cannot. This boundary is not a prison wall, but a threshold. A door you open every moment with your attention and intention. The more you practice stepping through it, the more you inhabit a space where your power lives. Imagine, for a moment, the countless hours wasted chasing shadows, trying to control the uncontrollable, worrying about what others think, or fixating on outcomes that slip beyond your grasp. The Stoic's invitation is to redirect that energy inward, to the realm where your choices reside. To choose your thoughts, your attitudes, your actions. This is where sovereignty begins. But sovereignty is not isolation. It's a delicate balance between self-possession and connection. It does not close you off from the world. Rather, it allows you to engage with it clearly and wisely, to act with care, without being ensnared by attachment or fear. This balance reveals itself in everyday moments. When someone speaks harshly, the instinct might be to retaliate or to withdraw in hurt. But the Stoic pauses. They consider, what is within my control here? How can I respond with integrity rather than impulse? Often, the simple act of choosing silence or measured words transforms conflict into understanding, or at least preserves your own peace. When faced with uncertainty, whether about health, career, relationships, the temptation is to panic, to imagine worst-case scenarios. Yet panic is a thief. It steals presence and clouds judgment. Instead, ground yourself in the present moment. Accept what is unknown without surrendering your calm. Remember that the future is a landscape yet to be shaped by your actions, not a predetermined script. This acceptance is not resignation. It is clarity. It frees you to focus on what you can do now. The Stoic mind is like a garden. You cannot control the weather, storms, droughts, sunshine come as they will. But you can tend the soil, plant the seeds, and nurture the growth within your care. Some days will be harsh. Some efforts may not bear fruit. But steady cultivation yields resilience and beauty. In this garden, your thoughts are the seeds. Cultivate those that nourish wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Pull out those that choke with bitterness, envy, or despair. You don't ignore difficult emotions. You don't trample them. You acknowledge them, learn from them, and choose which ones to feed. There is power in this choice. It turns the inner world from a chaotic battleground into a sanctuary of strength. You will meet people who try to pull you into their storms. Through gossip, drama, or complaint, the Stoic's shield is a quiet refusal. Not arrogance, but a peaceful detachment. You do not absorb their turbulence. You do not reflect their negativity. You offer your presence calmly and then return to your center. Life will present injustice and cruelty. The impulse may be to rage or despair, but the Stoic asks, how can I respond so that I am not diminished by it? How can I preserve my character and act with kindness, even when wronged? Forgiveness is not weakness. It is a reclaiming of power. It releases the poison that festers within and frees you to move forward. There is a certain humility in this approach, not the false humility that shrinks from responsibility, but a genuine humility that recognizes our shared human fragility. We all err. We all suffer. We all strive. This humility fosters compassion, not only for others but for yourself. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are the awareness that observes and chooses beyond them. This awareness grows through practice. Begin with your morning. Before you leap into the day's chaos, take a moment to steady your mind. Reflect on the challenges ahead and the virtues you want to embody. See obstacles as opportunities to practice patience, courage, or self-control. Throughout the day, return to this inner dialogue. When frustration rises, slow your breath. When impatience strikes, remind yourself of the greater picture. When fear whispers, lean into what you know is true, that your strength lies in how you face, not how you flee. Evenings offer another chance to review the day, not with judgment but with curiosity. What did you handle well? Where did you fall short? What will you carry forward? What will you release? This cycle of reflection, action, and renewal is the rhythm of Stoic living. Death, often a shadow in our thoughts, becomes a teacher rather than a terror, not as a morbid obsession, but as a reminder that life is fleeting. This perspective sharpens your focus on what truly matters. It calls you to live fully in each moment, not distracted by trivialities, not postponing joy or kindness for some distant future. You might wonder, what about ambition? What about desire? The Stoic does not reject these. Rather, they temper them with reason. Desire without discipline is a flame that consumes. Ambition without wisdom leads to hollow victories. The Stoic cultivates a desire for growth, for virtue, for meaningful connection. This desire is steady and enduring, not frantic or grasping. There is also a quiet joy that arises when you recognize how small your worries are in the grand scheme. The vastness of the cosmos humbles the ego and puts everyday troubles into perspective. This cosmic perspective encourages gratitude, not for the things you have, but for the sheer gift of existence, the chance to experience, to learn, to love. Gratitude opens the heart and softens the mind. It's a gentle reminder that nothing is owed to you, yet everything is possible. Your role is not to command the universe, but to serve it by living in harmony with its flow. In this service, find purpose. Purpose rooted not in external accolades, but in the quiet certainty that you are acting rightly moment by moment. When distractions come, as they will, return to your breath. Return to your principles. Return to the simple question, what is within my power right now? This question is a beacon in the fog. It lights the path when confusion clouds your mind. It grounds you when emotions surge like waves. In the end, the Stoic life is a commitment to presence, to choice, and to courage. Not the absence of hardship, but the mastery of response. Not the denial of feelings, but the wisdom to hold them lightly. Not a fortress of solitude, but a harbor of peace within the storm. Walk this path patiently, with kindness toward yourself and others. And know that every step, no matter how small, is a victory. This is your journey. This is your strength. This is your freedom. Consider for a moment how often the mind rushes ahead, chasing future moments like a child chasing fireflies. Glittering hopes that vanish the instant you grasp them. This restless reaching steals the calm that belongs to the present. The Stoic invites you to pause, to root yourself deeply in the now, not to deny plans or dreams, but to meet each moment fully awake. Life's unpredictability can unsettle even the strongest. Yet the Stoic does not seek to predict or control fate, but to welcome it. Like a sailor who cannot command the wind but can adjust the sails, you navigate circumstances by steering your attitudes and choices. This acceptance is not passive surrender, but an active engagement with reality as it is. You may feel overwhelmed by challenges that seem beyond your strength. Here, the Stoic teaches a subtle courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Each difficulty becomes a training ground, not a punishment, but a lesson designed to shape your character. Think of adversity as the whetstone sharpening the blade within. In conversations, conflicts arise. The urge to defend yourself or prove others wrong can dominate. Instead, imagine responding with curiosity and calm, listening not to respond, but to understand. This shift transforms exchanges from battles into bridges. Anger, that fierce fire, can scorch your peace and cloud your judgment. Stoicism suggests meeting anger with reason and reflection. When you sense it rising, pause and ask, will this feeling serve me? Can I let it go without losing my dignity? Such questions are gentle reminders of your power over your inner state. Humility is another pillar. It is not self-deprecation, but the recognition that no one is infallible. This humility allows you to accept feedback, to learn, and to grow without defensiveness. It frees you from the trap of ego, which often blinds us to truth. Gratitude, too, is a practice. Not the shallow thank you when things go well, but a deep appreciation for the simple fact of existence. For the air in your lungs, the beat of your heart, the chance to see a sunrise or hear a friend's laughter. This gratitude anchors you in abundance rather than scarcity. The Stoics also remind you to examine desires carefully. Not all desires are equal. Some tether you to fleeting pleasures or harmful attachments. Others align with your highest values and well-being. Learning to discern between these is essential. To desire wisely is to cultivate inner freedom. You may encounter people whose actions frustrate or hurt you. The Stoic teaches that their behavior reflects their nature, not your worth. Holding resentment only chains you. Instead, offer understanding where you can and release the rest. This does not mean condoning harm, but preserving your peace. When life's pace threatens to sweep you away, step back. Simplify. Return to what is essential. In a world that celebrates excess and distraction, the Stoic calls you to focus on what truly matters: virtue, wisdom, and the quality of your character. Your mind is like a garden, as fragile as it is fertile. Guard it against weeds of envy, greed, and fear. Nurture seeds of kindness, patience, and honesty. This tending is ongoing, gentle, and deliberate. Each morning, remind yourself of your intention: to live with purpose and calm. Each night, review the day without harsh judgment. Celebrate progress, acknowledge missteps, and renew your commitment. Remember that control is often an illusion. What truly matters is your response. The way you carry yourself through uncertainty, pain, and joy. This response shapes your experience more than external events ever can. Find solace in the understanding that you are part of a larger whole. Your actions ripple outward, affecting others in ways you may never fully see. Let this awareness inspire humility and compassion. When faced with loss or change, The Stoic heart grieves, yes, but does not despair. It sees impermanence as natural, a cycle that invites acceptance and resilience. Change becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. In moments of success, temper joy with modesty. Recognize that fortune is fleeting, and true worth lies in your character, not accolades. Celebrate quietly and remain steady. Your time is limited. This is neither a warning nor a lament, but an invitation to presence. To live each moment fully, with intention and grace. Slow down, breathe, observe your thoughts without judgment. Cultivate an inner sanctuary where peace and wisdom reside. Through this practice, you reclaim your life from chaos and distraction. You become a beacon of calm amidst the noise. This is the Stoic path, not a quick fix, but a lifelong journey toward mastery of self, freedom from needless suffering, and a heart open to the world's beauty and complexity. Walk this path steadily, with patience, with courage, with compassion, and know that each step, each breath, each choice is a quiet victory. There is a profound clarity that arises when you shift your gaze inward, away from the external noise that clamors for your attention. The world is filled with distractions, demands, and endless streams of information that pull you in countless directions. Yet none of these things hold the key to your peace. That key lies in the way you choose to see, to interpret, and to respond. The Stoic perspective encourages you to cultivate this inner clarity by training your mind to distinguish between what truly matters and what is merely noise. This discernment is not a harsh judgment, but a gentle sorting, learning to recognize which thoughts deserve your attention and which are better released like leaves carried off by the wind. When difficulties arise, as they inevitably will, the Stoic teaches that your suffering is not caused by the events themselves, but by the stories you tell yourself about those events. You are free to tell yourself a story of defeat, or you can choose one of resilience. This freedom to choose your narrative is the essence of your power. Think about how often your mind replays past mistakes or fears future failures. These rehearsals rarely serve you. They keep you trapped in cycles of anxiety and regret. Instead, focus on what you can do now. What action is available in this moment? How can you act with integrity here, no matter the outcome? In relationships, the Stoic path invites you to practice patience and understanding. People are complex and imperfect, just as you are. When others disappoint or frustrate you, remember that their actions stem from their own struggles and limitations. Respond not with judgment or anger, but with compassion and calm resolve. This does not mean accepting harm or injustice blindly. It means holding a steady heart that chooses its battles wisely, preserving energy for what truly deserves your attention and effort. Your emotions are powerful signals, but they need not control you. The Stoic practice is to observe them as passing weather, clouds that come and go, sometimes stormy, sometimes bright, without losing your footing. When anger, fear, or sorrow arise, acknowledge them without letting them define you. They are guests, not rulers. To cultivate this mastery, develop the habit of reflection. Set aside moments each day to examine your thoughts and actions honestly. Where did you live according to your values? Where did you falter? What can you learn? This honest self-examination is not self-criticism but a commitment to growth. You may notice a tendency to seek external validation, praise, recognition, or approval. The Stoic reminds you that these are fleeting and often unreliable. True validation comes from living consistently with your own principles, regardless of others' opinions. When you align your actions with your values, you stand firm, unshaken by praise or blame. There is a serene dignity in this self-reliance. It allows you to walk through life's changes with steady eyes and an open heart. Consider also the role of preparation in Stoic practice. This is not about anxious worry but about thoughtful readiness. Visualize possible challenges and how you might meet them with courage and wisdom. This mental rehearsal strengthens your resolve and reduces surprise and panic when difficulties arise. Yet preparation is balanced by acceptance. After you have done what you can, release attachment to the outcome. The world unfolds according to many forces beyond your control. Your task is to focus on your own effort and attitude. In your work, seek purpose rather than mere profit. Excellence and integrity in small acts build a foundation far stronger than chasing accolades. When your actions reflect your highest self, satisfaction follows naturally, independent of external reward. This focus on purpose anchors you through mundane routines and repetitive tasks. Even the smallest act, done with care and attention, becomes a thread in the fabric of a meaningful life. The Stoics also teach that time is your most precious resource. It flows relentlessly, never to be reclaimed once spent. This awareness calls for conscious use of each moment, free from procrastination and distraction. When tempted to waste time on trivialities, recall that every hour is a gift, a chance to practice virtue, to connect with others, to appreciate life's beauty. Speak kindly to yourself. The inner dialogue shapes your experience profoundly. Replace harsh self-judgment with encouragement and understanding. This compassion fuels resilience and openness. At times, life will bring loss of loved ones, opportunities, or dreams. The Stoic embraces loss not with despair but with acceptance and gratitude for what was shared. This perspective softens grief, allowing it to transform into a deeper appreciation for the fragility and preciousness of existence. In moments of joy, allow yourself to be fully present without clinging. Joy is a guest that visits and departs. By welcoming it gently, you savor it more deeply and remain balanced when it fades. Remember that wisdom is a lifelong journey, not a destination. You will stumble, forget lessons, and struggle. This is part of the path. Treat yourself with the same patience you offer to others. Ultimately, the Stoic way is an invitation to live with courage, clarity, and kindness, to meet life's uncertainties with a steady heart, to find peace not in external conditions, but within. You are the guardian of your own mind. With mindful practice, you can cultivate a sanctuary of strength, compassion, and calm that no storm can overturn. This inner fortress is your true home. Return to it often, nourish it, trust in it, and through this you will discover the quiet, enduring freedom that is the gift of Stoic living. When you awaken each morning, pause before reaching for your routine. Let the day greet you, not with urgency, but with stillness. In this quiet, remember, the hours ahead are unknown. They may bring frustration, joy, disappointment, or delight. But none of these things, not even the most unexpected ones, have the power to shake the core of who you are unless you hand them that power. The Stoic begins the day not by hoping for ease, but by preparing for reality. You may face rudeness, delays, or unfairness. The Stoic does not curse these things, nor flee from them. Instead, they are expected, absorbed, and met with the steady force of self-possession. You don't need to control others to live well, and you never really could. Their choices, moods, actions, they are theirs to bear. Your peace lies in how you respond. Do you react with fire or respond with wisdom? Do you seek to dominate or to understand? When you feel slighted, when someone's words cut deeper than they should, remember, what offends you often reveals your own unhealed places. Let it teach you rather than break you. Not all wounds are enemies. Some are messengers. In the marketplace of attention, where status, wealth, and appearance scream for dominance, Stoicism invites you to look inward and ask, what do I truly value? Is this applause I chase aligned with my nature, or am I drifting from myself, playing a role to win affection I don't even need? Your worth is not something others confer. It is revealed in the choices you make when no one is watching. Live for the approval of your own soul, not the applause of the crowd. And if you find yourself among those who don't understand your values, do not despair. The path of virtue is often walked in silence, and always by choice. When misfortune comes, as it will, the Stoic does not ask, why me? But rather, what now? Pain is part of life, but suffering multiplies when we resist reality. Grief has its place. Let it move through you, but do not let it define you. You are not your losses, your scars, or your missteps. You are the one who chooses what to make of them. That power is never taken from you. And in choosing your response, you shape your character. Day by day, choice by choice. This is not dramatic or grand. It's in how you speak to the cashier, how you handle a missed deadline, how you forgive yourself for a restless night. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be aware of what you can control and willing to act on it with courage and with care. You will encounter pleasure too. Do not fear it, but do not cling to it either. Pleasure is not evil. But if you begin to crave it as if you cannot live without it, it begins to possess you. Enjoy what life brings, but hold it with open hands, ready to let go. A Stoic walks among beauty with appreciation, but without greed. Among riches, but without arrogance. Among pain, but without despair. When others wrong you, your instinct may be to retaliate, to make them feel what you feel. But the Stoic pauses. The Stoic asks, what kind of person do I want to be? You can answer hate with hate and multiply it. Or you can choose the discipline of calm and end the cycle where it stands. In this, you don't become weak. You become unshakable. True strength is not in force, but in restraint. There will be times when you are misunderstood, when your intentions are questioned, when your silence is misread as arrogance or coldness. In these moments, hold fast to your integrity. Let your actions speak. Time is a faithful ally to the honest. Let others chase speed. The Stoic moves with deliberation. Let others chase more. The Stoic chooses enough. Each evening, when the day begins to dim, return again to reflection. Not as self-blame, but as clarity. What did I do today that reflected my best self? What could I improve tomorrow? No one else needs to hear these answers, but you must. In this quiet practice, you become your own teacher, your own compass. And the more you return to this ritual, the more the noise of the world begins to quiet. Not because it has changed, but because you have. Time reminds us of our limits, of how brief this life truly is. We don't know how many mornings we have left. And that is not meant to frighten you, but to sharpen your vision, to wake you up. Look around. Are you living according to your deepest values? Or are you postponing your peace for some imagined future? Some final moment when everything will be perfect? That moment never comes. The Stoic does not wait for ideal conditions. They begin now with what they have. Look also at your attachments. Are they based on the truth of what something is, or on the illusion of what you want it to be? When you let go of needing things to be a certain way, you become freer to see them clearly. Freedom is not the absence of all limits. It is the mastery of your response within them. In your solitude, you can find strength. But do not isolate out of fear. Connection is part of our nature. Seek companions who walk with purpose, who speak not to flatter, but to challenge and elevate. And be that kind of friend in return. But even when you walk alone, you are not abandoned. Your reason, your values, your ability to choose, these are companions that never leave. Practice gratitude not just for what brings ease, but also for what tests you. It is the friction that reveals your shape, the storm that teaches your sails. Without resistance, you cannot strengthen. Even in a world of chaos, you can live with grace. Even among confusion, you can choose clarity. Even in the darkest night, you can keep your inner flame alive. Stoicism is not a shield to hide behind, but a posture to stand with. Upright, aware, willing. It is the art of living without illusion, the discipline of choosing what is right, even when it's hard, and the quiet courage of facing each day as it is, not as you wish it were. Let this be your practice. Every sunrise, a chance to begin again. Every challenge, a chance to act with honor. Every breath, a reminder. You are alive now. Do not waste it. And so, as the day unfolds, remember, the world does not owe you comfort. It does not arrange itself according to your desires. And yet, you are not powerless. You are the one who decides how to move through it. You are the one who decides which thoughts you cultivate, which actions you allow, and which principles you protect. The Stoic understands this responsibility, not as a burden, but as a gift. To live with intention is the highest privilege. Not everyone claims it. Most drift, reacting to every wave, swayed by praise and wounded by blame. But you can be different. You can anchor yourself in what matters. Think of reputation. It rises and falls like the wind. One day you are praised for your strength. The next, you are criticized for your boldness. To build your life around public approval is to build a house on sand. Let your character be your foundation. Let your actions be their own reward. If you do good only for applause, you're not free. But if you do good because it's right, because it aligns with your inner compass, then you are untouchable. No insult can reach you. No silence can rob you. Examine your reactions. When you are irritated, what are you clinging to? When you are angry, what expectation was violated? Often, it is not the event that wounds us, but our insistence that the world behave differently. The Stoic trains themselves to see these moments clearly, to step back, to ask, was this in my control? If the answer is no, then release it. If yes, then act with wisdom. This is the constant discipline, separating the internal from the external and giving energy only to what belongs to you. This practice creates space between stimulus and response, between impulse and action. In that space is your freedom, the freedom to pause, to breathe, to choose. And from that choice, your character is shaped, not by chance, not by circumstance, but by conscious, repeated action. When you suffer, be wary of telling yourself too many stories. This always happens to me. I'll never get past this. These are not facts. They are interpretations. The Stoic watches the story forming and asks, is this helpful? Is this true? Replace drama with observation. Replace resentment with reason. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. You may love deeply. You may feel loss with your whole chest. But the Stoic does not lose themselves in their emotions. They allow them to pass through like weather, intense, maybe even overwhelming, but temporary. They do not push the feeling away, nor do they identify with it. They witness it, understand it, and then act, not from the emotion, but from virtue. This is not detachment. It is depth without drowning. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to fall. But always remember, you are also able to rise. And rising does not mean ignoring your pain. It means you choose not to be ruled by it. In relationships, the Stoic offers love freely, not as a transaction. They understand that no one can complete them because they are already whole. To give is not to lose, and to be alone is not to be empty. They do not control others, nor seek to fix them. Instead, they remain steady, a model of presence and principle. And in doing so, they offer something rare, an unshakable calm in a world of emotional storms. Even in the face of betrayal or injustice, the Stoic does not surrender to bitterness. Bitterness is a poison taken in hopes it will harm another. Let it go, not for them but for yourself. Justice matters, but revenge is not justice. The Stoic pursues what is right, not out of vengeance, but out of duty. In your daily tasks, be thorough, be honest. Even in the smallest duties, act as if the world is watching. Not because you crave attention, but because your own soul is watching. The habits you build in silence become the structure of your being. Let your craft, whatever it may be, reflect excellence. Whether you are sweeping a floor or writing a letter, whether you are comforting a friend or correcting a mistake, do it with care. The Stoic does not seek grand gestures, but consistent integrity. Life will challenge your patience. Train it like a muscle. Frustration is a signal, not a command. When others move too slowly, when plans unravel, when the internet cuts out, observe your instinct. Then choose calm over chaos. Time spent angry is time you never get back. This discipline requires vigilance. The world will pull you toward comparison, urgency, vanity. The Stoic returns again and again to the center, to stillness, to intention. Meditate on your mortality, not to darken your mood, but to brighten your priorities. Let it remind you, this day is not a rehearsal. Every conversation, every decision, every quiet moment matters. What will you do with this hour? What kind of presence will you bring into the room? Let your presence be grounded. Let your words be few but true. Let your silences be spacious, not empty. You will face misunderstanding. You will make mistakes. The Stoic accepts this. They correct course without drama. No need to defend pride. Just adjust. Pride resists growth. Humility invites it. Don't chase a life that looks impressive. Chase a life that feels aligned. The Stoic is not flashy. Their strength is quiet, but deep. They don't need to broadcast it. It shows in how they move, how they listen, how they hold the room without dominating it. They live not to impress, but to embody wisdom. That is their aim, to be wise, to be just, to be strong, and to be kind, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Look at your fears, not with judgment, but with honesty. What are you truly afraid of? Failure? Rejection? Pain? These are not enemies. They are teachers. The Stoic walks toward them, not away, because courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in its presence. Practice discomfort. Take cold showers. Walk without your phone. Sit with silence. The more you train your mind to endure, the less you fear the unpredictable. Freedom is built through discipline, and discipline is not punishment. It is the daily act of saying, I choose what I become. Speak less of what you'll do. Do more. Speak less of what you believe. Live it. Let your example speak for you. The Stoic doesn't chase inspiration. They build routine. They don't wait for motivation. They act from values, because inspiration fades, but habit, once rooted, sustains. And in the end, when your time here closes, the measure will not be how much you achieved or accumulated, but how well you lived. Did you face life honestly? Did you stand for something? Did you love without clinging? Did you act with courage, even in fear? These are the real questions, the ones that follow you beyond applause, beyond gain, beyond even breath. So live now in a way that answers them, not with words but with action, with the quiet strength of someone who has chosen to live with wisdom, no matter the weather. And as the hours pass unnoticed by the world, remember, not all progress is loud. The deepest changes happen quietly. Like roots growing underground, your strength builds in stillness, out of sight, but not out of meaning. The Stoic does not seek to rush transformation. They understand that time is not the enemy. It is the material through which you sculpt yourself. When the world demands immediacy, the Stoic moves deliberately, not slowly but with care, because speed without direction is chaos. Momentum alone is not mastery. So they pause often to ask, what am I becoming right now? That question keeps the path clear. There will be people who misunderstand your quiet. They will assume indifference where there is discipline. They may call your calm a mask, your restraint a weakness. Let them. You are not here to convince. You are here to live by principle. The opinion of the crowd cannot shape your soul unless you hand it over. There is a kind of joy, too, that the Stoic treasures, not the excitement that depends on luck or weather, but the joy that comes from harmony with yourself. A joy untouched by outcomes. It is the contentment of knowing you have done your best with what you had, where you were, even when no one saw it. Especially then, we are not taught to seek this kind of joy. We are trained to chase approval, applause, outcomes. But Stoicism invites us to consider another source of happiness: alignment. When your values match your behavior. When your inner voice doesn't need to shout to be heard because you're already listening. So many spend their lives trying to silence their conscience with distractions. But the Stoic welcomes the inner voice. They sit with it, even when it brings discomfort, because discomfort often signals where the work is. Examine your use of time, not with guilt, but with sincerity. How much of your life is spent reacting, scrolling, comparing, escaping? Time is not something you own. It is something you are entrusted with. And each hour you spend unconsciously is one you will never hold again. The Stoic sees time not as a pressure, but as a gift, a canvas. You don't need to fill it with noise. Let it breathe. Let moments pass without rushing to the next. Watch the sun move. Listen to the quiet between sounds. This is not idleness. This is presence. In presence, there is power. Because when you are fully where you are, choices become clearer. You stop living on autopilot. You respond instead of react. You act from intention, not impulse. When you are wronged, and you will be, The Stoic does not waste time plotting revenge or holding grudges. They see those acts as chains, not weapons. To carry resentment is to give your peace away, to chain yourself to someone else's behavior. The Stoic chooses to release it, not because the wrong wasn't real, but because freedom is more valuable than vengeance. And still, forgiveness doesn't mean passivity. It means refusing to be poisoned. It means protecting your energy for what truly matters. Every morning is an invitation, not a command, not a demand, but a quiet offering to begin again. The Stoic receives it with reverence. They know that the past cannot be changed, but today can still be shaped. So they return to their principles, not perfectly but persistently. Persistence, after all, is not about never falling. It's about choosing to rise without bitterness, without theatrics, just one honest step forward, then another. They don't argue with reality. If it rains, they get wet. If they fail, they learn. They don't pretend the world should adjust to their expectations. They adjust themselves to the world. This isn't resignation, it's strength. To see clearly and act anyway. To lose and still live nobly. To be misunderstood and remain kind. That is Stoic power. When you speak, speak less of what you hate. Speak more of what you aim to build. Destruction is easy. Cynicism costs nothing. But to create, even in small ways, that takes courage. Let your words nourish. Let them be careful and true. Silence, too, can be a gift. The Stoic does not fear it. They rest in it. In silence, you hear your own motives, your own truth. The noise fades and what's essential returns. And from that place, you can meet the world again. Calmly, clearly, with your inner compass steady. When wealth comes, the Stoic enjoys it without clinging. When it goes, they do not despair. Because nothing external defines them. They are not their status, nor their possessions, nor their roles. These are tools, not identity. This detachment allows them to be generous without fear. They can give freely because their sense of self isn't tied to accumulation. They can live simply because their joy isn't in things. They find luxury not in excess, but in self-command. The Stoic trains their attention. In a world addicted to distraction, this is rebellion. They resist the pull of endless stimulation. They choose depth over noise, focus over frenzy. And so, when they work with full presence. When they rest without guilt. Balance is not a matter of schedule, but of alignment. There will be days when your emotions run strong. When you feel the sting of disappointment or the fire of injustice. The Stoic does not deny these feelings. They acknowledge them fully, then ask, what does this feeling want to teach me? Not to suppress, but to integrate. Not to control, but to understand. This understanding gives birth to wisdom, not from books alone, but from lived experience. Wisdom that is worn into the soul by time, like water carving stone. Let your pain be part of that carving. Let it shape you, not shrink you. And remember, even the greatest among us were once lost. Were once beginners. What separates the Stoic is not genius, but commitment. They return to the practice again and again. They fail, reflect, refine. It is the long path, but it is the surest one. Let your mind be your ally, not your enemy. Speak to yourself with the clarity you would offer a friend. Correct yourself with honesty, but also with care. If the day went poorly, don't dramatize it. Ask what can be learned, then let it go. If the day went well, don't become arrogant. Be grateful, then let it go. Each evening, the Stoic examines themselves quietly, not with punishment but with purpose. They ask, did I live with courage? Did I act with justice? Was I true to my principles even when it was hard? They ask, not for praise but for alignment, so that tomorrow they can walk with just a little more clarity. This is how strength is built, quietly, steadily, with humility and will. And so the practice continues. Even when the world seems to spin out of control, when chaos rises and comfort disappears, the Stoic remains rooted. Not because they are untouched by the storm, but because they have trained their mind to stand within it. Chaos outside is not a justification for disorder inside. The Stoic holds fast to what they can govern: their thoughts, their actions, their choices. This is not about denial. It's about discernment, about knowing where to place your energy so that it nourishes you, not drains you. And in that awareness, you begin to notice the traps that once consumed your time. Arguments that don't lead anywhere. Drama that promises meaning but delivers only emptiness. The need to always be right. The hunger for recognition. These are heavy loads. You don't need to carry them. Let them fall. They are not yours. The Stoic walks lighter not because life is easier, but because they no longer clutch what doesn't belong to them. Freedom is found in surrendering what you never truly controlled. You cannot own another person's opinion. You cannot guarantee how others will treat you. You cannot dictate the events of tomorrow. But you can choose your response, the attitude you meet each moment with. That is the birthplace of strength. And strength is not loud. It's not in domination. It's not in the last word. It's in restraint. In walking away when your peace is more valuable than being right. In letting go of the urge to retaliate because your character matters more than your ego. We live in a time of urgency, of instant reaction. But the Stoic practices the pause. Before speaking, before acting, they breathe, they weigh. They return to the question, is this up to me? If it is, they do it with integrity. If it isn't, they release it. This constant filtering becomes a way of life, a method of preserving energy, of avoiding the slow erosion that comes from caring too deeply about what is outside your hands. It also teaches humility, because so much of what we suffer for stems from the illusion that we are the center of every story. The Stoic dissolves that illusion. They remember how small they are in the vast web of life. And from that smallness comes grace. The freedom to stop performing and start simply being. Being honest, being kind, being silent when silence is wise, being firm when justice demands it. Stoicism is not a cold philosophy. It is full of warmth once you understand its core. It asks you to love deeply but not possessively, to act justly but not for applause, to care but not to be consumed. It asks you to build an inner temple, a place no noise can reach, so that even when everything is taken from you, you remain whole. And you will lose things. Everyone does. Relationships, jobs, health, youth. The Stoic doesn't pretend otherwise. They prepare their heart for these inevitabilities, not in sadness, but in reverence. For what is more human than knowing all things change? Gratitude becomes sharper in this awareness. You stop taking the morning sun for granted, or the voice of someone you love, or the quiet way your body carries you through the day. Nothing is too small to notice when you know it won't last forever. And when grief does come, as it surely will, the Stoic does not turn away. They feel it. They welcome it as part of the contract of being alive. They do not run. They do not numb. They sit with it, and from it they gain compassion. That is what Stoicism offers. Not escape from life's pains, but the strength to face them with open eyes and a steady soul. So what then is progress? The Stoic does not define it by success or milestones. Progress is the ability to be calm where you once were reactive, to be gentle where you once were harsh, to forgive what you once carried, to try again even after failing. It's not linear. Some days will feel like setbacks, but no effort is wasted. Every act of discipline, every moment of reflection, builds your inner architecture. And the beauty of Stoicism is that it's always accessible. You don't need the perfect conditions. You don't need to retreat to the mountains. It can be practiced in traffic, in arguments, in illness, in the mundane and the painful and the miraculous. Because the essence of Stoicism is not in theory. It's in how you live when life isn't cooperating. It's the choice to meet adversity not with bitterness, but with bravery. It's the discipline to see someone else's anger and not mirror it. It's the strength to be still when every part of you wants to flee. And it's the grace to keep going, day after day, even when no one sees your effort but you. You'll notice over time, the noise quiets, not outside but inside. Where once your mind spun with fear or comparison or worry, you now find room to breathe. A stillness, clarity, This is not because the world changed. It's because you did. And with that shift, you begin to see more clearly what matters. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every invitation to conflict must be accepted. Not every thought deserves belief. You become the gatekeeper of your inner world. And with that role comes responsibility not to be perfect, but to be honest. When you fall short, admit it. When you succeed, be humble. When you doubt, seek stillness before seeking answers. The Stoic walks forward not with arrogance, but with quiet resolve. They accept hardship as training. They treat ease as temporary. They embrace solitude without loneliness, because their own company has become enough. There's a power in being grounded when everyone else is drifting. A dignity in choosing discipline in a culture of indulgence. A peace in choosing silence when noise surrounds you. You don't need to broadcast your journey. The results will speak. Over time, people may ask why you seem so composed, so thoughtful, so unfazed. You won't need to explain. It will be in the way you listen, in the way you speak, in the way you live. And still, this practice is never complete. That's the beauty of it. You are not aiming for some final state of enlightenment. You are learning to live well now and again tomorrow and again the next day. One decision at a time. Not for the crowd, not for the reward, but because it is right. And in that simple commitment, again and again, the Stoic life unfolds. It's strange how much time we spend worrying about what others think. Their opinions, their reactions, their judgments. We hand over pieces of our peace just to protect an image. But what is that image worth if it costs you your freedom? The Stoic understands that reputation is fragile and borrowed. You don't own it. You don't even shape it fully. It lives in the minds of others, where you have no control. So instead of sculpting a public mask, they focus on the private truth. Character over appearance, substance over style. There is a quiet courage in not needing to be understood. The world may misread your silence, your choices, your restraint. Let them. Your duty is not to be legible to everyone. It is to live with integrity, even when no one is watching, even when no one applauds, especially then. And in moments when you are misjudged, the impulse may rise to defend, to explain, to fix the misunderstanding. But the Stoic asks, is it necessary? Is the cost worth it? Often, silence is not weakness. It is mastery. Let others speak. Let the storm pass. Truth does not need to rush. Much of life is noise, urgent, seductive noise, opinions fired like arrows, outrage marketed like candy. The Stoic trains themselves to hear beneath it, to listen for what matters, to respond with clarity, not mimic chaos. This requires discipline. The mind is a wild thing. Left unchecked, it chases everything. Fear, fantasy, regret, distraction. But the Stoic does not allow their mind to roam freely. They train it, not once but daily. Like a garden, it must be tended, weeds pulled, soil nourished, seeds of wisdom planted again and again. And with time, the fruits appear, not in grand displays but in subtle shifts. You no longer panic at delays. You stop chasing applause. You learn to enjoy stillness. Stillness, that is not laziness. It is clarity without urgency, motion without waste. The Stoic moves through the world with presence, not frenzy. They walk into each moment as if it were enough, because it is. Even the hard moments, especially the hard ones. You see, hardship is the forge of the Stoic. Not a punishment, but a teacher. Not something to escape, but something to meet. With eyes open, with shoulders square. Pain comes, grief comes, injustice comes. But these are not the enemy. Your reaction is, will you grow bitter? Will you lash out? Or will you use this moment to grow roots? The Stoic chooses the deeper path. They ask, what is this difficulty shaping in me? Patience? Fortitude? Humility? You cannot buy these in times of ease. They are earned in the fire. And while others chase comfort, the Stoic chases truth. Even when it's sharp, even when it hurts, they don't flinch from their flaws. They study them. They don't excuse weakness. They build strength. It is not cruelty, it is care. a refusal to let yourself decay through softness. And this strength is not rigid. The Stoic bends, they adapt, they adjust, but they do not break, because they are rooted not in fantasy, but in reality. They understand impermanence, that nothing, not joy, not sorrow, not wealth, not poverty, lasts. Everything is on loan, everything flows, and so, they practice letting go even before the world forces them to. They let go of pride, of entitlement, of the idea that they are owed anything by the universe. They replace complaint with action, wishfulness with work, anxiety with preparation. And when things go wrong, they ask, what can I still do? Where do I still have agency? Not because it guarantees success, but because it honors their role as a rational moral being. Control is an illusion, but effort is not. The Stoic wakes each day not demanding a smooth path, but ready for a difficult one, ready to show up, to respond with reason, not reflex, to embody virtue, not chase validation. This daily commitment is quiet. There is no ceremony, no badge, just the slow, steady shaping of a life not ruled by emotion, but informed by it, a life not dictated by fortune, but guided by values. And what are those values? Courage, not the absence of fear, but action despite it. Temperance, not denial, but balance. The art of knowing when enough is enough. Justice, not vengeance, but fairness. A commitment to act rightly even when it costs. Wisdom, not knowledge, but insight. The ability to discern what matters. These are not abstract ideals. They are practices, habits, decisions made one breath at a time, 1,000 small moments stitched together into character. And in this way, the Stoic builds a life of meaning not through big declarations, but through how they treat the cashier, how they respond to failure, how they speak when angry, how they act when no one is watching. They hold themselves to a higher standard, not out of arrogance, but out of reverence for what it means to be human, to be capable of reflection, to be responsible for their own soul. And yes, they fall short, they fail, but they return, again and again, because perfection is not the goal. Progress is, integrity is, and so, day by day, they shape themselves. In solitude, they find strength. In restraint, they find power. In acceptance, they find freedom. There is no need for applause, no hunger for legacy. The Stoic does not live to be remembered. They live to be right with themselves. They walk the path not because it is easy, but because it is true. And in doing so, they become the rarest kind of person, not merely successful but wise. Not merely admired, but grounded. Not merely alive, but awake. And that, in the end, is what Stoicism offers. Not a shield from life, but the tools to live it fully, wisely, and well, whatever may come. Time doesn't stop, not for grief, not for joy, not even for regret. Yet how often do we find ourselves clinging to a moment already past, or leaning too far into a future that hasn't yet arrived? The Stoic doesn't pretend to stop time, but they do stop themselves from being ruled by it. They meet the present as it is, not as they wished it were, not as they fear it might be, but as it stands right here, breathing with them. Presence is not a mood, it's a discipline. To look your life in the face and not flinch. To notice when your mind drifts into illusions, fantasies, resentments, and then to gently, persistently return. Because the moment you are in this one is the only one you can touch, shape, or live in. And still, so many waste the present by carrying the weight of what they can't control. Someone else's anger, the weather, the economy, an unchangeable past, a distant outcome. But the Stoic draws a line, not to separate themselves from the world, but to clarify where their responsibility ends and where it begins. What is mine to carry? What must I set down? There is immense relief in this question. Not passivity, not laziness, but precision. Energy directed only where it can do good. We are finite beings. Our energy is limited. So is our attention. The Stoic spends neither on things they cannot influence. They reserve their strength for what's within their grasp. Their actions, their attitudes, their words, their choices. That alone is a lifetime's work. And in that work, They learn to distinguish between what is merely difficult and what is harmful. Pain is part of life, so is discomfort, but suffering, prolonged, self-inflicted suffering, often comes from resisting reality. You lost something, someone disappointed you, life turned out differently than you planned. It hurts, let it, but the Stoic does not live there. They feel it, yes, but then they choose not to build a home inside their wound. They choose to move forward even if limping, because every wound is also a teacher, and every scar a map of lessons survived. They don't avoid pain, they refine themselves through it, like iron in flame. And so, the Stoic becomes more than merely calm, they become resilient. Not because they deny emotions, but because they've trained themselves to respond rather than react. To feel anger and not be ruled by it. To feel sadness and still act with grace. To feel fear and step forward anyway. This training isn't glamorous. It happens in silence. In moments no one else sees. When you choose not to complain. When you keep your word. When you forgive even without apology. When you walk away from gossip. When you speak truth without cruelty. These are victories. And yet, they're not counted by the world. The world may never notice. That's fine. The Stoic doesn't perform for applause. They act rightly because it's right. And that's one of the hardest things. To do what's good even when no one's watching, even when there's no reward. But if your goodness depends on external recognition, then it's not goodness. It's a transaction. The Stoic isn't in the business of trading their soul for approval. They find peace in being self-directed, in choosing what's honorable over what's easy, in anchoring themselves to principles rather than outcomes. Outcomes are fickle. You can work hard and still fail. You can love deeply and still lose. You can prepare wisely and still be surprised. So you don't measure your worth by results. You measure it by how you showed up. Did you face the challenge with integrity? Did you speak truth even when your voice trembled? Did you remain kind when it was easier to be cruel? These are your metrics. Not the bank account, not the fame, not the praise of others. Because all these things come and go. But who you are, that follows you everywhere. So you cultivate your character. You protect it like a sacred fire. And you stay mindful of your inner citadel, that quiet place within you that no storm can reach. It's there always, even when the world feels loud, even when your emotions threaten to overwhelm. Return to it. Breathe. Pause. Ask, is this within my control? Is this aligned with my values? Is this the person I want to be? Not to freeze, but to respond wisely. And in your daily life, you'll find many chances to practice. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when you're interrupted mid-sentence, when plans unravel, when someone insults you, each moment is an invitation, not to perfection, but to presence, to virtue. You won't always get it right. That's fine. The Stoic doesn't aim to be flawless. They aim to be better than they were yesterday. They reflect at day's end, not to shame themselves, but to learn. They ask, what did I handle well? Where did I fall short? What can I do differently tomorrow? And in this quiet accountability, growth happens. They don't wait for motivation. They rely on discipline. They don't seek to control others. They master themselves. And from that self-mastery comes a strange kind of freedom. The freedom to remain steady when others are shaken. The freedom to choose patience when provoked. The freedom to live simply in a world obsessed with more. Simplicity, that's another Stoic practice. Not in the sense of owning nothing, but in the sense of being owned by nothing. Desiring less, needing less, finding richness in what you already have. To eat with gratitude, to walk without distraction, to listen fully, to be content. Contentment is not complacency. It's clarity, the clarity to know what matters and let go of the rest. And in letting go, you gain more. Not more stuff, but more space, more peace, more time for what truly matters. Friendship, virtue, contemplation, presence. The Stoic sees death not as a distant shadow, but as a constant companion, not to scare them, but to sharpen their appreciation for life. Memento mori, remember you must die, not to dwell in fear, but to live with urgency and care. to say what needs to be said, to love fully, to waste no time, because no day is guaranteed. And the Stoic, knowing this, wastes none. They live as if each day were their last, not in reckless indulgence, but in disciplined gratitude, in meaningful presence. They give their attention to what is timeless: wisdom, justice, courage, kindness, and let the rest flow by like a river. And so, they move quietly through the world, not needing to dominate, not needing to be seen. Their strength lies not in volume, but in depth. A strength that bends but does not break. A mind that reflects but does not obsess. A heart that feels deeply but loves wisely. And in the end, the Stoic leaves behind no statue, no grand legacy. Only the imprint of a life lived with calm, courage, and clarity. A life that touched others not by force, but by example. And that, perhaps, is the most lasting mark of all. True Stoicism is a quiet revolution of the soul. It doesn't require ceremony, spectacle, or slogans. It is the art of becoming unshakable in a world that constantly shifts, not by resisting change, but by becoming fluid in character and solid in virtue. One of its most profound teachings is the distinction between what is up to us and what is not. Epictetus reminds us, some things are within our power, while others are not. This foundational awareness allows for a life lived without the chaos of false expectations. To mourn the weather, the choices of others, the passing of time, is to cry over the wind. Instead, the Stoic tunes their compass toward what can be governed. Their will, their judgments, their responses. Clarity of perception is a key Stoic practice. It is not merely to see the world, but to see it rightly, stripped of assumptions, illusions, and the colorings of ego. When something happens, the Stoic does not rush to label it good or bad. They first observe. A delay is just a delay. An insult is only noise unless it finds a listener. A loss is a removal, not necessarily a punishment. In this space between stimulus and judgment lies freedom. Freedom, then, is not the ability to do whatever one pleases, but to rise above one's lower impulses. The Stoic trains the self as a sculptor would refine marble, slowly, precisely, with an image in mind. That image is not of pleasure or dominance, but of virtue. The four cardinal virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance, are not relics. They are practical tools. They guide decisions, shape behavior, and protect the mind. Wisdom allows discernment, when to act, when to remain still. It teaches that cleverness is not the same as wisdom, and knowledge is not the same as understanding. Courage is not loudness or bravado. It is the ability to hold one's ground in silence, to face discomfort without complaint. Justice demands fairness, not just to friends but to adversaries, not just in speech but in thought. Temperance restrains excess. It reminds us that pleasure is not evil, but the pursuit of it without measure is. In daily life, these virtues become a kind of armor, not to defend against the world, but to stand uncorrupted within it. The Stoic faces insult without retaliation, hardship without collapse, loneliness without despair. They do not pretend to be immune to pain, but they refuse to be defined by it. Self-reflection is indispensable. Each evening, the Stoic conducts an audit of the day. Where did I succeed? Where did I falter? What passions tried to rule me, and how did I respond? Not to berate the self, but to train it. Progress is measured not in perfection, but in constancy. Anger is seen for what it is, a temporary madness. Marcus Aurelius asked, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" When anger arises, the Stoic doesn't deny it, but dissects it. What expectation was violated? What illusion was clung to? The wise do not give their peace away for free. Gratitude, too, is central, not for things hoped for, but for what already is. The Stoic thanks the morning for the opportunity to live rightly. They thank hardship for the chance to prove resilience. They thank loss for revealing what truly matters. They simplify not to reject the world, but to be free from being owned by it. Clothes, titles, luxury, approval, these are indifferent. Not evil, not good. Only the use of them matters. A Stoic may have wealth or none at all, but they do not let their self-worth be tied to possessions. Fame is seen as fleeting wind. The opinions of others are not facts. They are judgments, often formed in ignorance, sometimes in malice, rarely with understanding. The Stoic listens with openness, but anchors their worth in self-knowledge. They are not reclusive, but they are inwardly autonomous. Even in crowds, the Stoic walks alone, not in pride, but in self-governance. They are part of society, contributing, serving, loving, but never surrendering their inner compass. They practice premeditatio malorum, the rehearsal of misfortune, not to dwell in fear, but to train the mind. What if I lose my job? What if illness strikes? What if betrayal comes? By imagining loss, the Stoic weakens its sting. By preparing for pain, they disarm it. Death is not ignored, but embraced as a natural boundary. To remember mortality is not morbid, it is liberating. Memento mori, remember you must die, is not a call to despair, but to urgency. Speak kindly now, act nobly today. Delay nothing that virtue asks. Friendship is cherished, but not clung to possessively. A Stoic loves without chains. They do not seek to own others, only to walk beside them in mutual respect. When a friend departs, by distance or by death, the Stoic grieves, then lets go, and remembers with quiet honor. They avoid flattery and manipulation. Words are weighed, not wasted. Speech, like silence, must serve the good. Lies corrode the soul, even convenient ones. The Stoic speaks truth, kindly when possible, firmly when needed, and always without deceit. Pleasure is not the enemy, but addiction to it is. The Stoic enjoys food, beauty, laughter, even comfort, but does not depend on them. They practice voluntary discomfort, fasting, cold, labor, not for punishment but preparation. If the pleasant is taken, they remain whole. Pain then becomes a teacher. In illness, they learn patience. In betrayal, detachment. In failure, humility. Pain reveals what cannot be shaken, the unbreakable core of character. Emotions are not denied. They are disciplined. A Stoic feels love, grief, hope, disappointment, but does not become those emotions. They observe them, learn from them, and choose response over reaction. They value time more than gold. Each hour is a coin, each day a treasury. Waste not on trivialities, gossip, resentment. The Stoic guards their attention, not as a miser, but as a steward of the sacred. Nature is a teacher. Change, decay, death, renewal, all are part of the same cycle. Why resist what is natural? The Stoic flows with it, acting with reason and surrendering results. Power, for the Stoic, is not control over others, but control over the self. The tyrant is a slave to his passions. The wise person rules their own mind. Humility is constant. The more the Stoic learns, the more they realize how little they know. They don't preach, they practice. They don't boast, they embody. Their strength is quiet, steady, earned. They greet misfortune with composure. This too, they say, was part of the plan, not fatalism but alignment with the deeper order of life. What happens may not be chosen, but how one meets it, that is always within reach. In their final moments, the Stoic does not wail. They do not beg for more time. They smile, perhaps, and say, I have lived, I have learned, I am ready. Their legacy is not in monuments, but in the lives they touched with virtue, in the peace they held amidst storms, in the clarity they offered like a candle in the dark. And so the teaching continues, not on parchment, not in stone, but in each act of courage, each moment of restraint, each breath taken with presence. This is Stoicism, not a philosophy to admire from afar, but a way to live. Path walked every day, quietly, simply, steadily. The Stoic begins each day as a clean slate, understanding that yesterday's victories or failures have no power over the present unless granted such authority. What matters is what one chooses now, the present action, the current thought, the lived moment. To live each day as if it were one's last is not a morbid suggestion but a call to full engagement. Not to indulgence, but to intentionality. In the Stoic tradition, life is seen as a loan, not a possession. The body, the breath, the abilities, all are given temporarily. When they are taken back by nature, the wise person does not protest. They thank nature for the time they were allowed to use them and let go. Like a guest who enjoys the hospitality of a home without seeking to own it, the Stoic enjoys life without clinging to it. Solitude is not feared. In fact, the Stoic finds in it a mirror, a companion, and a forge. Alone, the inner voice is heard more clearly. Alone, one can examine motives without interference. The person who can be content in solitude is never truly alone, for they are always in the company of their own reasoned soul. Material poverty is not seen as misfortune. It is an indifferent, neither good nor bad, unless one allows it to poison the soul. Diogenes, who lived with almost nothing, was more sovereign than the kings of his time, because his contentment did not depend on wealth, but on wisdom. The Stoic seeks this inner richness. They embrace the rhythm of nature, birth, decay, transformation, as something neutral and necessary. Just as leaves fall in autumn without tragedy, the Stoic accepts loss and change as natural. There is no cry of injustice when the seasons turn. Why should there be when fortunes do? The training of the mind is a daily discipline. One does not become Stoic by reading, but by practicing. When an insult is heard, the first impulse is often to react. But practice teaches pause. In that pause, the Stoic applies judgment. Is this worth my peace? Does this harm my virtue? Does this reveal something in me that I must refine? Social roles are approached with seriousness, not vanity. One may be a parent, a worker, a citizen, a neighbor. Each role carries duties. The Stoic fulfills these not for applause, but because it is right. They ask, what would the just person do here? And act accordingly, even if no one is watching. The opinions of the crowd are neither sought nor feared. Fashions of thought, trends of outrage, popular errors, these are constant waves. The Stoic does not build a home on such shifting tides. They root themselves in reason, in timeless principles. What the majority praises, the Stoic examines. What the crowd mocks, the Stoic considers. They are not swayed by numbers, only by truth. Delays and obstacles are not seen as setbacks but as opportunities. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The Stoic transforms difficulty into discipline, hardship into growth. The obstacle is not outside the path, it is the path. They do not imagine that virtue requires grandeur. Stoicism is lived in small acts, enduring a long line without complaint, choosing silence over gossip, spending time in reflection rather than noise. These are not signs of weakness, but of inner control. Every external event is a message from nature, not a riddle to decode superstitiously, but a call to respond virtuously. A flat tire is a moment to practice patience. A betrayal is a test of forgiveness. A success is an invitation to remain humble. Life constantly provides the Stoic with material for training. Desires are carefully watched, not suppressed entirely, but pruned and guided. Desire for fame, wealth, approval, these are flame without direction. The Stoic channels desire toward excellence, integrity, and clarity. They know that to want what is outside one's control is to invite perpetual frustration. Resentment is seen as poison drunk by the soul hoping to harm another. The Stoic lets go not because others deserve forgiveness, but because the self deserves peace. What happened, happened. The only question is, what can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? The practice of journaling becomes a private dialogue with the soul. What disturbed me today? What delighted me more than it should have? What did I do that I would be ashamed to have witnessed by a wise person? These questions strip away illusions and reveal the work still needed. There is no retreat from the world, but there is a refusal to be ruled by it. The Stoic participates in family, work, society, but always from an inner stillness. They do not let the noise outside drown the voice within. Engagement, not entanglement. They do not chase pleasure, but they do not flee from it either. A meal is enjoyed fully when it is simple and nourishing. A conversation is a treasure when it is honest and deep. The Stoic savors life not in intensity, but in clarity. They observe how emotions are tied to thoughts and thoughts to judgments. By questioning the initial judgment, is this truly bad? The emotion often dissolves. What is feared may turn out to be harmless. What is desired may reveal itself to be a trap. Power and position are not inherently corrupting, but they are dangerous if pursued for their own sake. The Stoic accepts leadership only if it allows them to serve virtue. They do not bend their values to climb, nor betray their integrity to belong. Silence is honored, not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of strength. When words do not improve understanding or peace, the Stoic withholds them. They speak with care, with purpose, and often with restraint. They prepare for exile, poverty, ridicule, imprisonment, even death, not because they expect them, but because they know that readiness dissolves fear. What is prepared for cannot surprise. What is expected cannot destabilize. To be Stoic is not to be cold, but to be warm without burning. Not to suppress emotion, but to purify it. Love is deeper when not possessive. Compassion is more powerful when not self-indulgent. Joy is more stable when not dependent on circumstance. They study history not merely for knowledge, but for perspective. All things pass. Great empires fall. Famous names fade. What remains? Deeds rooted in virtue. Words spoken in truth. Lives lived with integrity. They understand that most suffering is not from events, but from interpretation. A Stoic reshapes interpretation. Pain becomes endurance, loss becomes detachment, betrayal becomes freedom. The mind is a lens. Clean it and the world is clearer. They approach each person as a mirror. Those who provoke are revealing. Those who teach are gifts. Those who wound are also instructors. No encounter is wasted when viewed through the lens of growth. Time is finite. Attention is precious. The Stoic does not waste it on arguing with fools, chasing temporary highs, or lamenting the uncontrollable. Their energy is invested in what builds character, understanding, peace. The external world is a school. The Stoic is both student and subject. Each lesson is integrated, not stored. Each insight is tested in action, not just in thought. They know that greatness is not in speeches, but in self-mastery. Not in conquest, but in composure. Not in reputation, but in reality. And when the day ends, the Stoic does not wish for more hours, only to have used the given ones well. They sleep as they live, without regret, without grasping, with a heart disciplined and a soul free.